Alright, so we're continue working. So for question 7, it says a company has 3 sales departments, local, regional, and national, at each of several locations across the United States. Each local sales department has 120 employees. The company wants to survey its employees to determine the most effective sales method. Which sample should the company use to arrive at the most reliable, meaning that it is free of bias, and using that sample will give a more fair estimate of what they should do in order to obtain the most effective sales method. So option A says 24 employees from one sales department at one location, 24 employees from one sales department at each location. C says 24 employees from each sales department at one location. And option D says 24 employees from each sales department at each. So the one that would be more reliable would be our answer D. So because you're getting it from each sales department, from each location, so that one would be the most reliable one. Alright, so for the next question, it says Ads Galore makes posters with standard dimensions of 8.5 inches by 11 inches as shown. So therefore we're asked to find the area, and this is a rectangle, so it's going to be area equal length times the width. So in this case we need to convert our 8.5 inches to decimal, so it's going to be 8.5 inches. So it's going to be 11 times 8.5, which should give us 93.5 inches squared, or squared inches, which is the same thing. Alright, so for question 9, it says the dimension of a rectangular pool are 24.5 feet by 13 feet. The depth, which is the same thing as the height of the water, is 4 feet. Each cubic foot contains 7.48 gallons of water. How many gallons of water to the nearest tenth are needed to fill the pool to 80% capacity? So I'm highlighting the key information that we need. And of course, it says it's a rectangular pool. So I'm going to draw just a simple representation of what it should look like. Alright, so we know that the depth, which is the height, is 4 feet. We know that it is 24, and it's not drawn to scale, guys, so 24.5 feet by 13 feet. So the first thing we need to know, we're going to write down what is it that we need to keep in mind. So 1, it's talk about cubic foot, that means we need the volume. 2, it says they want to know how many gallons of water is needed to fill 80% capacity. So we need 80% of its capacity, and it's the same thing as 80% of the volume, because the word volume and capacity tends to be used interchangeably. The third thing is that we need to convert that 80%. We need to convert that 80% volume to gallons. So we're going to find the volume. So to find the volume is going to be B times H. B here refers to the base area, and this is the base area that we're talking about. The base area is actually a rectangle. So if I'm supposed to find B, it's going to be length times width, which is going to be 24.5 times 13, which gives us, so 24.5 times 13, which gives us 318.5. So in other words, I can replace my B with 318.5 times h, which is my height, which is 4, which gives us 1,274 feet cubed, because that is the volume. Now, we found the volume, so we can get that off. Next thing that we need to find is 80% of the volume. So it's going to be 80% of the volume. In this case, the volume is 1,274. So we change our 80% to 0.8 or 0.80. Same thing, off means to multiply. 274, which gives us, so it's going to be 0.8 times 1,274, which gives us 1,019.2 or 1,019.20 feet cubed. So that's the second thing that we did, so we can mark that off. Number 3 is to convert our 80, whatever the 80% is, to gallons. So we know that this here represents the 80%. So we need to change that amount of volume to gallons. Now, it told us that 1 cubic foot, in other words, it's 1 cubic foot, which is equal to 7.48 gallons. So we already know what the 80% is in cubic foot. So it would be 1,019.20, and we want that in gallons. So this we need to use. So since we don't know what that is in gallons, we're going to put X to represent that amount. And if we want to find out what it is, we're going to find the cross product, or in other words, all we're doing is just to multiply. So it's going to be 1,019.20 times 7.48, which gives us 7,623.6 gallons. So it's going to use, they're actually going to need 7,623 gallons to fill 80% of its capacity, because that's what they asked for up here. And that's how you break that one. Alright, so I'm randomly selecting questions. So this one says the circumference of a circle is 53.38 centimeters. What is the area in square centimeters? And it says that we should use pi as 3.14. So firstly, I'm going to draw a circle of what it should look like. We know that the circumference, which is the distance around the circle, is 53.38 centimeters. Now, we're going to use what we have in order to find what we need to find. So we know that to find the area of a circle, so the area is equal to pi times the radius squared. Now, in order for us to find the area, we need a radius. So what we're going to do is to use what we know about the circumference to find the diameter. And once we know the diameter, then we can find the radius. So we know that circumference is equal to pi times the diameter. So in this question, the circumference is 53.38 centimeters. I'm just going to forget about the units just for now. Equal to pi times d. Pi is 3.14. And d we don't know, so we're just going to write back d. So We want to find D, so of course do a river. We have to get rid of whatever is bothering D, because remember, we want D on its own by itself. So we're dividing both sides by 3.14. So that goes. So therefore I have D equal to 53.38. So that's 53.38 divided by 3.14, which gives us 17. So the diameter is actually 17 centimeters. So we're going to use what we know about the diameter and the radius to find the radius. So we know that the radius is actually half the diameter. So it's going to be, in this case, the diameter is 17. So 17 divided by 2, which gives us 8.5. So the radius is 8.5. So we're going to find the area. So it's going to be 3.14 times whatever R is. In this case, R is 8.5 centimeters. So 8.5 times 8.5 again, because it is radius squared. So it's going to be 3.14 times 8.5 times 8.5, which gives us 226 points. In this case, it didn't tell us how we should round it, so I'm going to round it to one decimal place, or the nearest tenth. So it will be 226.9 centimeters squared. And remember, it's area, so it should be in square units. Alright, so this one says that Kara mixes different colors of paint to create new colors. The table shows the amount of paint Kara mixes per batch. So here represents the batches and the colors that she mixed per color, or the amount of paint per color. So it says select all the batches that will create the same color as the first batch. So we're going to use this as reference because we need to get them all the colors using the same amount, but we have to select it from the different batches. So we need whatever it is. It should be 2 blue, 1.5 white, and 1 yellow. However, in order for us to compare them, we have to ensure that all the numbers here are the same, meaning that, don't mean identical, but if it's a whole number, all the numbers should be whole numbers, or all the numbers should be decimal. So when we look at this, we realize that this one here is actually a decimal, so we need to change it to a whole number. So I'm going to put batch 1 here. B1 means for batch 1. And I have blue, I have white, and I have yellow. So we're going to multiply 1.5 by the smallest number apart from 1, because we want to make it a whole number. That means I'm going to multiply it by 2. So 1.5 times 2 gives us 3 for the white. However, whatever I do to one of the numbers, I have to ensure that it's done to all of the numbers so they remain in the same proportion. Right? So I'm multiplying all of them by 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. So far, we can look at it and see that, okay, batch 5 is like that. So I'm going to select batch 5 to be one of my answer choices. So it should be the same as the first one, right? All right, I'm going to try another batch. I can try batch 6. So I need to make this a whole number. So I can multiply it by 2 again. And now I have to multiply all the numbers by the same. So this is going to be 3, this is going to be 4, and this is going to be 6. Can I select this one as being 1? It would be no, because the numbers are different and I cannot reduce this. So I cannot select that one. So I'm going to try 4. So times this by 2. So it will be 6. This would be 9, and this would be 12. So by looking at this, I can reduce it by 3. So So this is going to give us 4. This is going to give us 3. And this is going to give us 2, which is the same thing as batch 1. So batch 4 is a go. And the others won't give us the same if we should do the same. So that's it for this one. So batch 4 and batch 5. Alright, so this one, and I'm just randomly selecting question. This one says that in the figure shown, it says what is the measure in degrees of the shaded part. So the shaded part would be this part, right? But I need you to pay attention that it is just not x, but it's 8x. So it's 8 times whatever value x is. So we already know that angles on a straight line, they sum to give us 180. So it's going to be 7x plus 8x plus 44.4. And that should sum to give us 180. So it's going to be 7x plus 8x, we're forming an equation, plus 44.4. And this should give us 180 degrees. So when I add these two, because they're like terms, you can simplify. That's going to give us 15x plus 44.4 equal to 180. From here, this is a two-step equation, so I'm going to solve. So I'm subtracting 44.4 from both sides. And I can put a 0 for placeholder there. This goes. So that means all I have remaining here is 15x equal to 180 minus 44.4, which gives us 135.6. So remember, I'm trying to find the value of x in order to know exactly what the angle is here, which is the shaded amount. So I'm going to do the inverse operation here. So the inverse of multiplying by 15 is to divide. So x is equal to 9.04. Alright, degrees. But here, it's going to be 8 times 9.04, which gives us 72.32 degrees. That would be the measure of that angle. Alright, so for this one, it says a company plans to ship 2,000 packages of chocolate. The company randomly selects 100 packages and find that 5 packages have an incorrect weight. Based on this data, how many packages out of 2,000 should be predicted to have an incorrect weight? So if we want to find the amount, or to predict the amount that will have an incorrect weight, we therefore need to find exactly what is 5, because 5 out of 100, because 5 packages out of the 100 randomly selected packages have incorrect weight. So we need to get this as a percent. So 5 over 100 as a percent would just be 5%, right? That means 5% of whatever amount of packages is going to have incorrect weight. So therefore, we need to find 5% of 2,000. So 5% of 2,000, 5% as a decimal would be 0.05 times 2,000, which gives us 100. So that means 100 packages would have incorrect weight according to this question. So the last question that we will be looking at is, it says a recipe calls for 2/3 cup of sugar for every half teaspoon of vanilla. What is the unit rate? And by unit rate, we mean making it 1 to find how much cups do we need for 1 teaspoon. So we have 2/3 cup of sugar to a half teaspoon of vanilla. So what we're going to do here, because we want to know how much cups do we need for one, because we need to turn this half into a 1, we're going to divide both sides by a half. So a half divided by a half, of course, would be 1. So 1 teaspoon. And then 2 cups is going to be 2/3 divided by a half. But once we're dividing fractions, we're going to do keep, change, keep. This should be K. So keep, change, flip. So keep, change to multiplication, and we're going to flip this. So it's going to be 2/1. So we're multiplying. We can cancel this way or this way. So we multiply across. 2 times 2 gives us 4. And 3 times 1 is 3. So that means we'll need 4/3 cups for every 1 teaspoon of vanilla.